What's up, Swing Traders? Snacks here. We're going to jump in and do our Halloween watch list, October 31st, 2025. As always, we'll start with some market breadth, looking here at the SPY. Guys, as I said for a couple of days, I didn't even do a watch list yesterday just because we needed to pump the brakes and allow the market to pull back and show support at one of our levels being the short-term moving average, the next being prior all-time highs, and the market is currently pulling back. Let's jump over and look at futures. This might give us a better look at how we may be reacting off of these levels. Futures is gapping up and holding that gap as we speak, so that's not a bad look there. We had Amazon give fantastic earnings, no surprise there, and I believe the reaction to Apple was good as well. Reddit has had a great reaction to earnings. Net, Cloudflare, cybersecurity, very, very good reaction out of that. We're going to get into a couple of these here for our peg play watch list, which now we've got, I would say, around 5 of them that we need to be eyeballing here as we move forward. But as far as market breadth goes, guys, we do still need to keep an eye here on the RSP and make sure that we're not only being led by the Mag 7 or the mega caps, right? We want to see full market participation, and this currently suggests that we are not. This is not full market participation, okay? So we certainly do want to see the RSP, the equally weighted, get back over this green line, which is the prior all-time high. We would love to see this get back above our moving averages and start to trend towards highs. We need to, or the market's going to pull back. It's really just that simple. And then we've got the Qs looking decent here. Let's see how NQ is doing overnight. Looking all right here on NQ. Another gap up, and this is pushing just a bit. Not a big surprise with the reaction to big tech earnings. Let's go ahead and look at Apple as well. AAPL. What are they doing? Yeah, they are up 2.3% overnight trading. Yeah, so we might get saved there by Amazon, Apple. I think if those two had reported bad earnings, we certainly would have been retesting prior highs here on the SPY, which is this level up around 673.85. Okay, that is still the line in the sand that we want to stay above. Any pullback to it that reacts off of it and pushes back up, we want to be buying if, okay, I want to be very clear here, if we see sector rotation, okay? If we are only being led by SMH and XLK, okay, tech and semis, if that continues to be the only thing leading this market, then we are going to have to pump the brakes in a pullback. But if we get a pullback to that prior all-time high level and you see some money disperse into other sectors and positioning, and a hot day on the sector list here as we bounce off of that level, that would suggest positioning. Okay, and we would absolutely want to be buying our leaders into that move. Something we will narrate as we get there. It's starting to look like we're just going to do this scenario here today with that positive reaction to big tech earnings. We're just going to have to wait and see. Do we start to go sideways or do we rip up and make new highs? I have a list here, I would say, of about 6 triple R triggers that I am a fan of, and then I've got a couple shorts and I've got a few peg plays that we're going to watch. So fantastic watch list here today. I would say we are in a risk profile B-. Got to go B-, okay? Let's see if we start to push back up towards highs or if we continue this retracement into the prior all-time highs and get a reaction off of it. If we get a reaction off of that and get a triple R trigger on the indices and we have sector rotation, full participation, so, we've getting a pop out of the RSP, IWM, stuff like that, maybe even crypto, then that's going to be a risk environment A, and we're going to put on some positions for that. So guys, just keep coming back, watch the watch list. I will articulate through it every day and we'll react to what the market gives us, okay? We cannot be too predictive. We have to be reactive. If this, then that. So we build our scenarios, and those are the 2 scenarios that we're looking for. I would say a third would be that we break that, and then, we're just going to have to talk about things if that were to happen. But I don't see that as the most likely. I see one of these being the more likely scenarios, and we're going to focus on those until we are given another scenario to look at, okay? So for the focus list, I've got to jump in here and say nuclear looks hot. Okay, no pun intended. Nuclear does look hot. I think through yesterday's high is a trigger for me here on OKLO, and just enough time for me on earnings on this guy. And then one I want to include as well, I think there's a little bit, yes, far more time in earnings, so I think I might favor NNE here, because if we do get a good reaction to OKLO's earnings, I think it will push the entire sector. I don't know how we will, right? Like, these guys don't make any money, but somehow they're holding up through prior reports. OKLO, let's go back to its previous reports. They've been holding up through these prior reports, right? So Trump tweeted something yesterday about how we need to ramp up our nuclear facility or nuclear energy production to keep up with China. So look, I don't expect the heat to come out of this sector right now. I just don't. And I understand they don't make money, okay, but there is a premium put on future technology. It's just like the quantum sector, guys. I understand. But to short this stuff right now, look at the chart, okay? You're on the wrong side of the trade. It is that simple. You are simply on the wrong side of the trade until proven otherwise. This thing has not broken structure since the initial rip. It's the same thing I said about quantum computing. Okay, we've got higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and it looks to be putting in a higher low. Guys, stop trying to short this until we get a change in character. Right now, this is setting up for another push towards high, and I see a triple R trigger. Technically, this happened on Wednesday, right, and we're holding up, but I like it through yesterday's high as a possible trade, but I do prefer, I believe, here NNE, and we'll just have to see the price action coming out of the market. Let's go ahead and see if we've got any overnight heat on the sector. NNE, yeah, NNE is at 48 right now. Yeah, so upper end of yesterday's range. I think through yesterday's high for me on NNE is something I am interested in. All right, so that's a level we'll watch there today. And then we've got AGX, triple R trigger yesterday here on AGX. Very attractive, and if you want to be safe and wait for this thing to clear range. For those of you whose first time it is to this channel, I like to trade the leaders in a trend backed by growing fundamentals, and we wait for them to retrace, react at or around our level, and remount the short term as our trigger for triple R. Let's do NVIDIA, our most recent triple R. I made 85% on this trade. Some guys in boot camp all the way up to 200. Dude, Dharma, 200%. Your first trade with me in boot camp. Fantastic trade, buddy. All right, but we look for a retracement reaction at or around our level, and a remount of the short term is what gets us in for triple R setups. And of course, we want to align this with market breadth. That does matter, okay? Sector strength. And the hottest sector coming out of the gap up on the SPY was semiconductors, and that's why we went with NVIDIA here and got an absolute ripper of a trade-off in just 3 days, 85%, or for some others, 100 plus, 200 plus. Wow, man, I wish I didn't put I'm in Thailand, so I put a sell order at all-time highs and went to sleep and woke up the next day and we were freaking gapping up another 5%. And, hey, I left some money on the table there. I am not too upset, though, about 85% in just a few days. So going back to our watch list here, we've got Reddit. This is going to be a triple R trigger / peg play watch here. I don't know if I would go as far as to call it a peg play. We're gapping up at 10%. 10% to 214 on earnings. So we'll have to see the volume that comes in. It could qualify as a peg play for us. But really what I like is the triple R trigger here over the 50 on this. And let's look at the weekly. Yeah, so we could be getting a triple R trigger on the weekly as well if you prefer to use it. But guys, over the 50 here on Reddit should get pretty squeezy. All right, that is my expectation if we can clear range and get back over the 50. I expect a bit of a squeeze on Reddit. And we've got SOFI here. This is another one that we are watching. We had a breakout, fake out, shakeout, pulling right back into range. We have our IPO cycle breakout, right? And you guys know what I like. I like to get a little piece loading up into it, but earnings was just too close, so we couldn't do that. And look, we broke out. We're pulling back to retest it. I think a trigger back over the 9 here on SOFI is very attractive to me and something I will be looking to take. Let's look at XLF here and see if we're getting any better of a look. All right, I'd really like to have the financial sector ETF get back up into this range, at least reclaim the 9 and start to look like it's going to reclaim the 50. But we are still holding structure. I will say that if there's anything attractive about this chart, it is the ability to, or it is the fact that it is still holding structure. So not too bad of a look there, but I would say I'm slightly concerned with this look here in financials, specifically to do something like that, which would drag down the sector. We had JP Morgan, which guys I've been telling you to watch here for a while, triggered the other day. I was in other things. I took NVIDIA instead, but JP Morgan, I believe I said in chat I was choosing between the two, and you can see how well this is playing out so far here. You should be at break even at the minimum. So I mean, I think even above break even. Don't not make money on this trade to any of you that took it. All right, and then we've got everyone's favorite quantum computing. I get it, they don't make any money. RGTI, they don't make any money. I agree, it's crazy. Okay, it really is. These people have a $13 billion market cap, and let's see what their sales are. Let's just look. Let's just look at the sales. Oh my goodness. 1 million in revenue. Wow. I get it, okay? But right now the market is placing a premium on the future breakthrough revolutionary technology. And guys, stop fighting the market, okay? You're not outsmarting the market while you get smoked on this thing, talking about and releasing all your due diligence on how they don't make money. We know, okay? But right now, the market is pushing this, okay? It held structure again. Guys, if we clear this range, it's gonna squeeze, all right? It is very likely to squeeze up towards recent highs because all you effers won't stop shorting this baby, all right, before we get confirmation. Confirmation, when it is time to short this, phase 1, 2, 3, lower low, okay? And then get this guy, you can short this right here. That's what I would say. It's like, what are you waiting for? Or what are you so freaking antsy about, right? Like, you know you're going to get puts. Like, dude, wait. You don't need to catch the entire move. You don't need to short this guy all the way up here when it's still in a freaking very bullish trend, right? Wait for the head and shoulders to play out, okay? And you have plenty of room to the downside when this guy does finally roll over. It's going to probably be a multi-year bleed, okay? You're going to have many, many opportunities to get into some puts on this guy to the downside. Stop forcing it. Wait for confirmation. Right now, it's looking very squeezy. Through, I would say, about 43 is something we might need to look at. Let's check it out on the overnight RGTI. Yeah, it's sitting just below breakout level. So I think if this guy squeezes through this level, it's worth a shot. And then we've got Palantir. This looks like a breakout retest. Yeah, exactly the line that we drew. We said, let this guy break out, pull back, retest, show strength off of that level, and I'm okay with buying it. GFI, if we get a bid, let's look at gold. Actually, gold. Yeah, look at gold here. Possible triple R trigger here on gold. So I like GFI as my play here on gold. Triple R trigger possibly happening right here over 39.50. Over the 9, guys. Retracement reaction at around our level. Remount of the 9 is going to be pretty attractive here for me. GFI, I believe I'm favoring. But look, you could just play the gold futures if you would rather. You could do MGC, GC, whatever you want, whatever your risk profile allots for, and you've got a very clear stop at bottom of range targeting recent highs. Okay, you should have plenty of room to get a 2-to-1 below recent highs. Good trade here in gold if she triggers. Let's through high of day in futures is the trigger there on gold. And we've got a few peg plays to watch here. We'll go ahead and make this a singular chart. BE is one worth watching, guys. As you know, for the peg play, I like a gap up 5 to 10+%. It depends on the market cap, right? How relative is a gap up? For micro caps, a 10% gap up is nothing. For a mega cap, it's pretty significant, okay? But we want a large gap up on at least 2x volume, which we've gotten here on BE. And once that happens, and it needs to be off of an earnings report, okay, power earnings gap play. And then once we have that, we go ahead and put in our fixed range volume profile with a point of control and an anchored VWAP. And I want price above both of those, and I want the anchored VWAP sloping upward. That would be our trigger. So we've got some work to do here on BE. PEGA is another one that just happened recently, so we'll move this over, and you can see that we need price to get up above the anchored VWAP as well, and I would expect this point of control to move up along with it. But guys, over this dotted black line and an upslope anchored VWAP on PEGA is attractive. Net is another one that we need to begin tracking. This hasn't logged yet, but this is going to gap up all the way up here. You need to be watching it. TER, peg play, this one's going. We might need to wait for it to cool off. STX, another one as well. And then Google is one worth keeping on watch for peg play, right? We had a big gap up and then a sell-off, but you need to put your markers in and start watching this. If we can start to go sideways and get that trigger for a peg play on Google, it's worth a shot. And then I want to talk about Meta. I took some shares in Meta yesterday on the gap down, but we have a possible gap down reversal. I got in 663.70, I believe it was. But anyways, I mean, look at this volume, right? So at the end of the day, this is a possible gap down reversal play. Let's look at this guy overnight, and we are at 676. Yeah, so look, guys, we might get a gap down reversal play. One of my 6 continuation models, we look for a leader. Specifically, I like to say to the top 20 market caps as my leaders here. But the big boys, if they have a big gap down on earnings, right? Mag 7 is really the ones that I'll be open to playing this guy on. This is Meta, okay? Big gap down, overreaction to earnings. If we trigger the gap down high at what, 682, right? If we can trigger that today or the coming days, next week, it's worth a shot for a gap fill, okay? And pretty big gap. I mean, that's a significant move back up to where we were. And then sometimes you can even really get this thing back onto trend. Here's an example of it happening. Gap down on earnings. A few days later, you breach that gap down high, and you can see that it closed the gap, but not only that, it actually went on a run to all-time highs. It's a great time for positioning if you get a big gap down overreaction to an earnings report. You know, there was a something billion, like $16-19 billion one-time tax payment that made them miss on earnings. But aside from that, all of their earnings data was very positive. So, you know, this is very likely an overreaction as shown by positioning here. If we start to push down more, you know, we'll just have to reevaluate at that point. But for now, the play is a gap down reversal through 682, I believe it is. Yes, correct. 682 is your trigger for gap down reversal on Meta. It is on the radar. And then we got to take a look here at Bitcoin and crypto. Really, guys, this is looking pretty nasty, okay? I think this is the likelihood of this thing flushing is pretty high for me right now. Okay, this guy needs to get back over the 50 in a hurry, or we're probably going to see some pain. So guys, stop freaking 20, 30x leveraging, 50x, 100x leveraging your crypto accounts, right? Just put some limit orders down here in the mid 90s and get filled on this flush, right? And ride this baby back up. Crypto is not going anywhere. Okay, stop overexposing at all-time highs. Buy the dips. I've got to share this video really quick here of Larry Fink, the BlackRock CEO, speaking at the Future Investment Initiative in Saudi Arabia yesterday. Take a look at this.
Talking about AI, we're not spending enough time talking about how quickly we're going to tokenize every financial asset and the opportunity we're going to have a digital wallet and moving, you know, ETFs and other things through a digital wallet.
And that's what I want you to notice. This is the governor of the Sovereign Investment Fund or Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. Look at this guy immediately go on his phone and start buying some Ethereum. I mean, off of that comment. Guys, I'm kidding. But look, you know, I just wanted to make a point here that relax, okay? Stop overdoing it. Stop overexposing. It looks like we might have a beautiful little buy opportunity here in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link. Those are the three that I prefer, right? And if we get a little flushy here, then your boy's getting some more. All right, guys, that's the end of the list today. Stay safe, manage your risks. Let's go make some money.